And by the way, there's a classic book about marketing. Not that what we're talking about today is just marketing, but page 1, Guerrilla Marketing. It's now in its 4th edition, by the way. If you've never read it and you're into marketing, definitely worth the read. Marketing is not about us. It's about them, and this is even more so true in a world of social media. Here's another thing you don't do at a cocktail party. You don't introduce yourself and then go silent the rest of the night, right? So this is about engagement. It's not the one-way monologue. Hey, one other thing. Have you ever bumped into somebody like selling insurance at a cocktail party? We didn't go to a cocktail party to buy something. People do not want to be sold overtly in social media. Now, here is a tool for engagement in a social world. And by the way, this is getting a little on the old side. Happy 19th birthday. This was invented by Toyota back in 1994. It's called a quick response code or QR code. And the purpose of this thing is to take somebody from the real world and engage them. In fact, wherever they might be in the real world, we now have this device. This device, any of the smartphones, has both a camera and an internet connection. So it can now bring additional information right here. Maybe a video, maybe the next level of technical detail. So it's about bridging real world to technology, an engagement tool. Now, QR codes are all over the place these days, all the rage, although like any technology, I think they're now starting to go past their peak. You know, frankly, with the processing power in these smartphones, even just a photograph becomes a code. You don't need a special, simple binary code anymore. So another few years we'll use these, then we'll move on to digital image recognition. So you see these on people's shirts. If you notice, some people are tattooing themselves. I guarantee they will live to regret that. You want to learn more about San Antonio? This is no longer just a piece of paper. You can bring it to life by scanning the code and seeing an associated video. So, what would you do with these? Here's how they work. You fire up your QR reader, and by the way, I just looked this up over the weekend. You know, this is an app you have to put on your phone. And Apple now has about 900,000 apps. And by the way, for you Android people, there's about 1 million apps. There are more Android devices today than Apple devices. But of those 900,000 apps, this one is in the top 100. So it's not exactly dead yet. 2. Not enough. The question is, how many apps does BlackBerry have? And this is an interesting point to consider. What happened to BlackBerry? Because BlackBerry had more than 50% market share in 2009, and they stand today slightly below 3%. 50% to 3%. If that can happen to a leading technology company, that can happen to anybody. And really, the change here was that it's not the hardware that's interesting, right? It is about these apps. And what Apple did was said, come one, come all. If you can build software to do something interesting on the phone, let us certify it and the world can use your app. And by the way, you'll get 70% of the revenue from it. So now instead of just having the folks in BlackBerry's lab working as hard as they could building apps, Apple has the whole world building apps. Google copied this very quickly with their Android operating system and their marketplace. And the bottom line is, I'm a software developer. So how do I look at the world? Well, let's see. If I want to build an app, number 1, I'll probably build for Android. Number 2, I'll build for Apple. And guess what? I've just covered almost everything. 3% market share, not worth my time. And therein lies BlackBerry's problem. So BlackBerry in the end will no longer be an independent company. And again, you saw Fortune 500, 400, 300. That's where we're going in a world of accelerating change. Now you fire up your QR reader, you point it at your bottle of wine. As soon as the camera resolves the code, it lands on an associated website. 2 things to notice. Number 1, the one thing you know for sure if somebody scans your code is they're looking at a 4 or 5-inch screen. So bring them to a mobile optimized page, not something that would look great at 24 inches, right? The other thing is you don't want to make this generic. You don't take them to a home page. If I scan this code on this bottle of wine, it's because I want to learn more about the bottle of wine, not the winery. And these things are completely free. By the way, here's my favorite QR code on a bottle of wine. You can dress them up a little bit. You go to a website like quickqr.com, and the reason I highlight this is they say, hey, commercial use, fine by us. And so you plug in your target address right here, and then you generate a code, and you'll get a nice little file that you can print on a product brochure, a product package, a business card, right? How do you want to use these? The real question is not how to generate the code, but what would it do that's of value to your target audience? That's the question. Now, just to be creative, let me show you one of the more recent uses of QR codes. So I pulled this off the web just a couple of months ago. Let's take a look.
And now here's Nemo in Seoul with a look at a new type of retail experience that's taking the city by storm.
More than 15 million South Koreans now use smartphones. To capitalize on the trend, a new type of store aimed at mobile-mad consumers has emerged. An average of 200,000 people use Seoul's Solon subway station every day. Photos on panels on the edge of platforms attract people's attention. They look like ads, but in fact they're virtual stores. Last month, the world's first virtual store opened at Seoul's Solon station. The store sells a wide range of everyday necessities, such as meat, milk, and tissue paper. But the store doesn't actually stock the products. All it has is life-size photos of the products and barcodes or QR codes. After activating an application on their smartphones, customers take photos of the barcodes or QR codes of the product they want, make their payment, and specify when and where they want the products to be delivered.
Now let's say you're a competitor just a little farther down the tube, and you've got the same exact amount of real estate, so you both have the same, costs there. But these guys have a bigger inventory, lower labor costs, less shrink or shoplifting, and by the way, a superior service because it includes free delivery at the specified time that they're able to do with all the other economies in this model. So this is how people are starting to change the game. I did a project just recently for a good old down and dirty B2B supplier of concrete-related products like rebar. So out at a construction site, they just put up a big poster that's sort of the virtual store. And whenever the folks on site need something like more rebar, scan the code, say how much, when and where they want it delivered. So let's get creative. Everybody, well, it seems like everybody's got these devices. Now more than half the people in North America have smartphones. And of course, the number's increasing every day. 9 million new Apple devices just this weekend with the launch of the iPhone 5S and C. Now, here's one last idea, and then we'll keep going, because I have 21 ideas for you. This is just the first. But if you go to Starbucks, you'll see right there on their product packaging, scan here for more recipes. So there's one company that copied this. And by the way, this is a brainstorming session this afternoon. Not every idea here is going to be a takeaway or applicable to your business. But there's a company that sells a food product in Costco. You have Costco's around here, right? So they put the same exact idea on their food product. Now, not everyone walking into Costco has a smartphone, although most of us do. Not everyone who has a smartphone has a QR reader app, although it's one of the top 100. Not everyone who has the app uses it. And yet when they did something as simple as this, their sales increased by 30% because you were giving people ideas of how they could use that product.